Greetings, I'm Michael Andresi, Director of Training and Services for Midpoint Technologies out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. As you may or may not know, Midpoint is a reseller of Checkpoint Enterprise Security Management products, specifically Provider One, now known as MDS. Unlike our competitors that sell hundreds of different and often competing products, we sell, service, train, support, eat, sleep, think, dream Checkpoint Enterprise Security products, and only Checkpoint Enterprise Security products. Okay, we do sell and service some OPSEC partner products, but only when they're related to MDS and Enterprise Security. Now, why would we do this? Because we believe that our laser focus, that we're much more qualified to provide the very best service, training, and support at a much lower cost than our competitors to our customers. Checkpoint Enterprise Security Management. That's all we do, and we do it well. I'd like to welcome you today to our ongoing educational and training video series. Please sit back and enjoy, all courtesy of Midpoint Technologies. So, this past week I've been reviewing Tufin SecureTrack, and I thought I would share some of the highlights with you. Tufin SecureTrack was Tufin's first and strongest product in their portfolio. SecureTrack is the perfect tool to perform sanity checks on rule-based integrity and to keep auditors happy. So you're probably asking yourself, well, if Midpoint focuses on Checkpoint, then why are they selling Tufin? Well, Tufin is a Checkpoint OPSEC partner, and SecureTrack is an enterprise security management product that integrates with MDS for rule-based auditing. When I review products, one of my qualifications is that it scales to enterprise level, as opposed to mom-and-pop shops with few firewalls, single administrator environments. Tufin SecureTrack is in fact an enterprise product and fits well within Midpoint's product portfolio. So let's take a closer look at this product, and I can prove that to you. So Tufin SecureTrack has many options, but I'm assuming that most people that buy SecureTrack want to do two things. They want to keep the auditors happy and some rule review, clean up their rules. So what I'm doing is putting together an architecture to do just that in its most basic format, and not look at all the different options of SecureTrack at this point, because 90% of the people are going to buy for those two options. So what I've put together here is that Tufin needs two data sets in order to solve those two problems. The first data set it needs is the policy, objects, and rules. Second data set it needs is logs. Basically, it's going to do hit counts on the rules. So where does it get this information? Well, if you have an MDS environment, you start out with the MDS. So Tufin will pull in MDS policy, objects, and rules. Second place it goes is for the domain management servers, whether they're embedded within the MDS or they're standalone domain management servers, formerly known as smart centers. It goes out there and gets the local objects and rules. Next, that's the first data set. Second data set is logs. Where does it get the logs? Obviously from the domain management servers and the MLMs and the domain log servers within the MLMs. It gets the logs. So from that, you'll be able to do the two most basic functions with Tufin. So the first of the two functions is comparing policies. So what you see here on the screen before you is Tufin's main policy screen. On the left-hand side, you see I have an MDS, I have some CMAs or domain management servers, and I have my firewalls that are being monitored. From the MDSs, I am pulling down global policy. From the domain servers, I am pulling down the local domain policies. You can see that in the upper panel, it shows you where the policies are being saved and where they're being installed. If you move your mouse over the link, you can see they're being saved and installed. So what's going to happen next is that you're able to compare versions of different policies to see what's changing. Here I'm clicking on two versions. I'm going to click the compare button. I'm going to view it, and it brings up the two policies side by side. Within this policy, I should be doing it in a minute if you hold on, there it is. Within this policy, you can see on the left-hand side, between version 1 and version 2, a bunch of rules got deleted. Those are in red. And then as we scroll down, which will be in a minute, 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes. Scroll down here. There we go. As you scroll down, you'll see the additional rule that was added in green. Now this capability is fantastic for auditors to see how rules are changing, and it's great for administrators, that multiple administrators. You have a head administrator delegating to subordinates, and he wants to monitor how they're inserting rules and if they're following standards. Excellent tool for this, does a great job. The next tab is the Analyze function. What this function does is it just does a basic shadow check of rules. Sometimes rules overlap each other, and Checkpoint has some basic checks for shadow rules. Here you can see it on the upper right. They talk about shadow rules. Checkpoint does some basic check for shadow rules, but Tufin just does a much more granular, much more refined check for how rules overlap each other. Now you can use this to condense your rule sets. I mean, the less rules you have, the less rules you have to review, the less rules you have to upgrade, less rules you have to debug. So it's always a great check for finding duplicate rules or overlapping rules. And so here I'm continuing on. I think somewhere there's going to be a report that shows where rules overlap. So I didn't actually run the report, but what I wanted to point out, if there's another function here that's called the auto policy generator, and what this does, it analyzes the logs. You basically sniff the network, analyze the logs to see what's going across the network, and then it generates a policy from there. And I'm not going to run that. It's probably a future function that you may want to use, but I'm just pointing that out for that automatic policy generator, which is kind of a neat function too. So this next function we're going to look at is the audit function. Now this is the magic function that helps you keep the auditors away. What this does is this looks at various aspects of your policy. In this case, it's called best practices. What are some of the best practices you can implement in your policy? And as you can see, there's both general ones and checkpoint ones. For example, is there a stealth rule would be the most basic one that you can see there. So that's one of the basic checks you can do on your policy for your auditors. And then also they have a really cool PCI test where it'll go through and map your policy to the PCI requirements, and map them directly back to the Tufin tool, so that your auditors, and some of it's a management function in PCI where you can tell your auditors, hey, we're using Tufin to monitor the changes to our policy. So this next tab is for compliance. Now what you can do here is you can outline sections of your rule base that you're going to be monitoring for changes, rule bases and objects. If any changes occur, you can then alert the auditors or the head admin to let them know that mission critical parts of your policy are being altered. This next function, which I really like, is that it ties rule bases back to the business owners. So this way you can have a complete life cycle of your rule on individual rules. So here you can see the policy, and over on the right hand side there were business owners, technical owners, whatnot. So you can document this and tie it back to people who can make decisions. When you do rule reviews and you're going to pull the rules, you at least know who to call. And so this is a really neat function that they put in. I'm glad they did that. And this last one is for monitoring firewall performance, basically setting up SNMP for CPU and disk usage, which is a nice ancillary function that they threw in. So up to now, the data set we used were the rule bases, evaluating the security, integrity of rule bases. This is where you can use the logs to correlate hits on rules. So the policy that I'm outlining here is where you're going to do hit counts on rules. And so you run the report. I think I've run a report already here. And the report's going to print out. And let's see. Here is your hit count report. So you can see on the left hand side it tells you what percentage hits, top 5, bottom 5, unused, least used, reports that you get from correlating the logs back to the rule base. I kind of wish they would have had just dump the whole rule base with a per rule hit, but maybe in the future they'll be offering that feature, or maybe I haven't found it yet. Not sure. So now I'm going to show you how to set this up. You can see on the left hand side I have an MDS with several domains and my firewalls that are being monitored by SNMP in the hierarchy. So first thing you got to do a SIC. You do a SIC with each and individual component, the MDS, the domain servers, the domain servers. And so how do you do that? You got to set up an OPSEC partner, and here you go in the OPSEC portion, and you got to create, there's a global one I created for the MDS, and then there's a local one I created for the domain servers, and here you can see the two of them. Now when you create the local one, they tell you in the manual, notice it does in the lower right the LEA and CPMI. LEA is where it pulls in the logs, CPMI where it pulls in the policies. Now one thing you really got to remember to do is, and this is where you set up the trust to make sure the trust is established, look at the permissions. You have to set up special permissions. They have to be read-only. If this doesn't happen, you're going to get a CPMI error. So make sure you set up special SecureTrack permissions in your policy. Then install your database for both, once again, both your global policy and your local policy, or assign it. From the global you have to assign it, and then from the local you have to install it. And so here I usually just leave the defaults here. You can set up your OPSEC permissions, which are just basically the defaults. I'm not sure why they have the admin logins. I haven't tested that. And these are your SNMP monitoring, which you can also set up for the firewalls. You only SNMP monitor your firewalls. And then you can test to make sure you got connectivity before you save your parameters. Once this test is done, you know that they're being monitored, and it'll show up in the previous list. So I'm just going to go through this one more time so you can see the pages. Here you set up your SIC. Here you specify all your devices. Once again, your MDS, domain servers, firewalls, not your firewalls, sorry, your MLMs, your log servers, your domain servers, and your MDSs are what you put into here. And then you do your tests, and you should be set up and ready to go. Okay, so let's summarize. There's two major functions of the Tufin SecureTrack tool. The first function is the rule analysis. Within rule analysis, there's a portion for yourself, or for administrators, and that portion is to check how the revisions are being made. If you have rogue administrators inserting rogue rules, this tool you can compare revisions and make sure that they're following standards when inserting new rules into your policy. Or if anything goes wrong in the middle of the night when a policy is installed, you can compare two different versions to see what rules were added and what rules were deleted. And the second portion of that is to keep the auditor ways. You can compare your rule bases to best practices and PCI standards and give those reports to the auditors. So that's the first function, SecureTrack. The second function of SecureTrack is for condensing rule bases, and you're going to do that through analyzing shadow rules to see if rules are shadowing or duplicating each other, or looking at hit counts to see how the rules are being hit. Top 10, least 5, unused rules, and also unused objects, so you can condense your rule base and your objects database. So once again, thank you for watching. This is Michael Andresi. If you have any questions about this product or any products that we service and support, you have my email. Give me a call. Look forward to hearing you. Hope this was valuable to you, and remember, Midpoint Technologies, Checkpoint Enterprise Security Management, and now Tufin. That's all we do, and we do it well. Have a great day.